the Harvard Light. As I like to do, I like to give a conservative perspective about the world around me. So as the beginning and the start of this podcast, I like to talk about my social media, and I like to talk about my audio platforms, and also feel free to send a voice message that's also available to do that. So feel free to do that. So, social media, I will link all that in this podcast. And as far as audio platforms, I am on Amazon. I am on Amazon Music. I'm on Audible. And I am on Spotify for podcasters. I am on Pandora. And I am looking to go to wherever you enjoy your audio platforms or your podcast. I am on that. So this is the continuation of rock male artists of the 90s, the top and the best rock 10, that is, male rock artists of the 90s. This podcast is featuring Oasis and Soundgarden. Let's talk about this. Oasis shot from obscurity to stardom in 1994, becoming one of Britain's most popular and critically acclaimed bands of the decade in the process. Along with Blur and Suede, they were responsible for returning British guitar pop to the top of the charts. Led by guitarist-songwriter Noel Gallagher, the Manchester Quintet adopted the rough, thuggish image of the Stones and The Who, crossed it with Beatlesque melodies and hooks injected distinctively with British lyrics, themes, and songs structured like The Jam and The Kinks. It tied it all together with a massive guitar roar, as well as a definite sheer that drew equally from the Sex Pistols' rebelliousness and the Stone Roses' arrogance. Gallagher's song frequently reworked previous hits from T-Rex's Cigarettes, Alcohol, borrows the riff from Bang a Gun to Wham, Fade Away, and it takes the melody from the song of Wham's Freedom. Yet the group always put the hooks in different settings, updating past hits for a new era. Originally, the group was formed by schoolmates Liam Gallagher vocals, Paul Bodenhead authors guitar, Paul McGeehan bass, and Tony McCarroll drums. After spending several years as the guitar technician for a Stone Roses-inspired group named the Inspired Carpets, Noel Gallagher returned to Manchester to find that his brother had formed a band. Noel agreed to join if he could have complete control of the group, including contributing all the songs. The rest of the band agreed and adopted a new name, Oasis, before launching a year of intensive rehearsals. After playing a handful of small gigs, the band cornered around Alan McGee, the head of Creation Records, and forced him to listen to their demo. The group released their first single, Supersonic, in the spring of 1994. It edged its way into the charts on the back of positive reviews. With a melody adopted from I Like to Teach the World to Sing, Shakermaker became a bigger hit in the early summer. Released a month before their debut albums arrived, the soaring ballad Live Forever became a major hit in England and helped make Definitely Maybe the fastest-selling debut in British history. The record entered the charts at number 1 and eventually sold over 7 million copies. Oasis mania continued throughout 1994 as the group began playing larger theaters and watched each new single outperform the last. However, tension in the group began to build. Liam and Noel refused to do joint interviews because they always fought, and Noel Gallagher briefly left the band at the end of a difficult fall American tour. However, he quickly rejoined and the band headed back to England. As Supersonic began to climb the U.S. album rock and modern rock charts, this stirred up Whatever, a non-album single hit. It hit number 2 over the British Christmas season. At the beginning of 1995, the group set their sights on America by promoting the single Live Forever. The song became a major hit on MTV, and the song became major hits with modern rock radio stations, peaking at number 2 and definitely maybe soon climb to gold status in the U.S. Returning to England after a sold-out American tour, the group recorded a new single, Some Might Say. Drummer Tony McCarroll parted ways with the band on the eve of the single's May release, with Alan White taking his place. Some Might Say entered the charts at number 1, and its success led to all of Oasis' previous singles retaining the indie charts. Oasis spent the rest of the summer completing their second album, What's the Story, Morning Glory, which was released in October of 1995. Upon its release, the album shot to number 1 in England, becoming the fastest-selling album in the UK since Michael Jackson's Bad. The band continued to set records during the following years. Over the course of 1996, What's the Story, Morning Glory became the second biggest British album in history. On the strength of the iconic single Wonderwall, Morning Glory also became a top 10 success in America, where it reached quintuple platinum status. It also cracked the top 10 throughout countries in Europe and Asia. During 1996, this followed them, and they did 2 outdoor concerts in England. After Oasis abandoned their American tour, they concentrated on recording their third album. While the band's first 2 LPs were quickly recorded, they took several months to record the third, which finally saw completion during the spring of 1997. The resulting album, Be Here Now, was released in late August. Oasis' next album suffered delays as initial sessions with the electronica duo Death in Vegas, who had been recruited to produce the record, were scrapped. Additionally, drummer Alan White made his exit from the band in early 2004, and Ringo Starr's son, Zach Starkey, climbed aboard to take his place. Don't Believe the Truth eventually saw a worldwide release in May 2005. Featuring songwriting contributions from every band member. The record represented a new approach from the previously Noel-dominated group. Lila, The Importance of Being Idle, and Let There Be Love all contributed to the album's success. And Don't Believe the Truth soon became the band's highest-selling effort since Be Here Now. The band quickly featured and went back to the studio in the mid of 2007. Halting production to move back to several months later allowed Noel to spend time with his newborn child. Now, sessions resumed in November and wrapped up in 2008, with Dig Out Your Soul receiving a release date later that year. In 2009, after a typically heated backstage sibling altercation, Noel left the group for good, prompting Liam and the rest of the band to change the name to Beady Eye. For a band so heavily identified with the Seattle scene, it was impressive 2 of its founding members were from the Midwest. Kim Thayil, guitar, and Hiro Yamamoto, bass, and Bruce Pavitt were all friends in Illinois who decided to head to Olympia, Washington, to attend college in 1981. Though none of them completed college, all of them became involved in the Washington underground scene. Pavitt was the only one who didn't play. He found a fanzine that later became the Sub Pop record label. Yamamoto played in several cover bands before forming a band in 1984 with his roommate, the late and great Chris Cornell. He had previously played drums in several bands. They soon joined the duo, and the group named itself Soundgarden after a local Seattle sculpture. Scott Sundquist was originally the band's drummer, but he was replaced by Matt Cameron in 1986. Over the next 2 years, Soundgarden gradually built up a devoted cult following through their club performances. Pavitt signed Soundgarden to his fledgling subgroup label in the summer of 1987, releasing the single Hunted Down before the EP Screaming Life appeared later in the year. Screaming Life and the group's second EP in 1988's FOPP became underground hits and earned the attention of several major labels. The band decided to sign to SST instead of a major label, releasing Ultra Mega OK by the end of 1988. Ultra Mega OK received strong reviews among alternative and metal publications, and the group decided to make the leap to a major change for the next step. "1989's Louder Than Love" released on A&M Records. Louder Than Love became a word-of-mouth hit, earning positive reviews from mainstream publications, peaking at 108 on the charts and earning a Grammy nomination. Following the album's fall 1989 release, Yamamoto left the band to return to school. Jason Everman, a former guitarist for Nirvana, briefly played with the band before Ben Shepherd joined in early 1990. Soundgarden's third album, 1990's Bad Motorfinger, was heavily anticipated by many industry observers as a potential breakout hit, though it was a significant hit, reaching number 39 on the album charts. Its success was competing with the under-the-radar success of Nirvana's Nevermind, which was released the same time as Bad Motorfinger. Prior to Nevermind, Soundgarden had been marketed by A&M as a metal band, and the group had agreed to support Guns N' Roses on the fall 1991 Use Your Illusion tour. While the tour did help sales, Soundgarden benefited primarily from the grunge explosion, whose media attention helped turn the band into stars. They were also helped by the top 10 success of Temple of the Dog, a tribute to deceased Mother Love Bone singer Andrew Wood. And Cameron recorded with members of Pearl Jam as well. During the late 1990s and early 2000s, each members kept very busy. Cornell released 3 solo albums, also recording and touring with Audioslave with former members of Rage Against the Machine. Cameron toured his Wellwater Conspiracy and also played and recorded with the late Mark Langen of Screaming Trees. Finally, in 2010, the band announced the reunion with a few live shows during the summer, including that year's edition of Lollapalooza, which preceded a compilation of Telephantoms in the fall. Telephantoms was initially available as a double disc set on September 28th of 2010. The single disc was also included in Guitar Hero on that same date and year. King Animal debuted at 5 on the Billboard Top 200 upon its release on November 2012, and the band supported it through the next year with a tour. Matt Cameron took a hiatus from the band in November 2013 due to commitments with Pearl Jam. Former Pearl Jam drummer Matt Chamberlain replaced him for live dates in 2014. That year, Soundgarden celebrated the 25th anniversary of Super Unknown with the release of 2 deluxe editions of the 1991 album, a double disc set and the 7-disc Super Deluxe box set. During 2015, Chris Cornell mentioned that Soundgarden had started working on material for the new studio set, and the band made it official in 2016, announcing that they were beginning to record on an album. In the meantime, the band released a deluxe reissue of Ultra Mega OK in March 2017 and began an American tour that April on May 17th. And it continued on May 17th, to be correct. Following the band's concert at the Fox Theater, Cornell was found dead in his hotel in the Detroit Fox Theater, to be exact. That's what was happening. He sadly took his own life. He was only 52. In the wake of Cornell's death, the surviving members of Soundgarden took time to regroup. In an October 2018 interview, the 3 remaining suggested they would retire Soundgarden's name, but they would possibly work together again in some capacity. The 3 did perform at a Chris Cornell tribute concert in January 2019, a show where vocals of star quality all came out to pay tribute. In July 2019, the band released their first Postmosis record, the double album Live from the Artist's Den, which captured a concert in 2013. So what are my thoughts about Soundgarden and Oasis? I think it's a very good example of remembering purpose and why you're doing something, and try and hold on to that, and to just ground yourself and understand the gifts that you have with what you're doing. So what am I saying? What do I mean by that? For example, when Chris Cornell, when he died, the band, they decided to say, okay, we're going to remain as a trio, right? And then with that, they wanted to just move on and just keep his legacy the way it is, and just everybody just embrace that and just remember the good and hold on to the good and embrace what the unfortunate tragedy that happened, embrace that and think about that, and try to hold on and hone that and think about things and to pay tribute. But on the other hand, with Oasis, with the bickering between the two leads in that band, it's just unfortunate, and it's even more unfortunate that they're brothers, because it just binds the whole idea of, even if you're siblings, it still doesn't erase the unfortunate roles that fame can take, and not wanting to do things with a purpose, just being centered in what you think is right instead of understanding and seeing out what other people think. And that can be a huge division. And I think being an outsider looking in on this and using this as a capstone of what happens in society, it can be examples of what to do and what to think about when moving towards growth and progress, and moving towards things that you want to do and say, and moving towards flaws and thinking about your own flaws, and just it's an overgrounding lesson in humanity. And I think, again, music, whether socially, what goes on with music, politically, and everything else all in between, it's another example of creation, of what happens when the reality of creation and the reality of human nature combines. And I think a lot of things can be wrapped around into this. So that reaches the end of the Harboring Light. And as I like to say, tune in and turn up. Take care.